I don't know how to put this. How do I put this? So I think I need to start abstaining from a lot of these sports talk groups because people be saying all types of things that I'm just like, bruh. So future episodes, we are we officially here are going to define what certain things are. What is an average NBA player? That definition is all over the place. You
Right.
know, um, because people want to debate things and say, "Oh, this person was average." Well, define average, and they can't do it. So we are going to put our official definition of what an average player is, what a great player is, what separates the different levels. And it's essentially we're going to establish a tier list of
I'm okay
players.
with that. I'm okay with that.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to establish a tier list of where we put players in their respective sports. And that way, when people listen, they understand where we are putting these people because you can't just say star. That some the way they throw that word around and throw around superstar. Now I was listening to Nick Wrong go through his superstar club list. I'm like, man, all those people in that ain't superstars. They may be the superstar for their club, for their ball club, but they ain't all superstars, man. So
Nah, I'm with that. Like I have this thing right now. They just posted a thing talking about the top. Somebody posted the top 10 shooting guards of all time, and in that you have like the. I'm sorry, man. I'm not a Reggie Miller hater. I'm just a Reggie Miller keep it real guy. Like Reggie was a great shooter, and he demanded a lot of attention and everything, but he wasn't. He couldn't defend. He didn't rebound. He didn't assist. He couldn't really dribble too tight. He could dribble like to get you off of him or whatever, but
three
he
dribbles
was
max. Yeah.
yeah he wasn't like like orchestrating the offense. Like if his shot was not going, then you know what I'm saying he just a decoy on the court. And so like they had him at number 5. They had James Harden at number 4, and I'm like I don't even. I think James Harden is a point guard, like eh, that don't play any defense. So I just get really confused at like, what are y'all saying? So we got guys like Clyde Drexler, who to me, I have him 4th. I
Okay.
got, I got Jordan. Are we recording yet?
We are.
Oh,
This
okay,
was
okay, okay.
well, no, we hadn't officially started, but this is kind of B roll. You know,
Cool, cool. Yeah. So my top 3 is Jordan, Kobe, D Wade. I don't like when people try to act like D Wade wasn't that dude.
yeah, it's
Um,
ridiculous. D Wade
he's
was
no.
that dude.
So to me, when I'm talking about these best of the best, I'm talking about people that carried a franchise on their back. You know,
Okay, okay,
Clyde Drexler carried a franchise and
yes.
was
Res-
easily, no question, was the number 2 shooting guard of his time. And the only reason he's number 2 is because that man.
that dude.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? So it's
yeah,
like I think about remember, and I know you're going to a team that already won a championship, but he came to Houston. Their second championship was easier than their first one. Like when they got into the playoffs, it
yes,
was just like because you couldn't do nothing with him,
yeah.
and he got the liberty of being able to play freer than he ever did in the NBA because he got Dream. So it's just like I don't know.
I still couldn't believe they had that trade go through. Like I was like, yeah, because the Rockets. Oh my god, the Rockets were trash that year. They won the chip the year before. They weren't that good, and even after the trade, they came into the
Yeah,
postseason as a
the
six
Sweet
seed.
Ten, yeah.
They but when they made that trade for, it's up there. That's a separate conversation, but to me, it's up there in one of the biggest um what are you doing trade scenarios, like how, it's up there with me with like the Rodman trade. Like, how do you let Rodman get traded to San Antonio? If I'm a team in the league, I am taking Rodman just so he doesn't play with Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan doesn't need another rebound that ends up in his hands.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, like Dennis was on his way, like he was on his way out of the league. Not from
No,
how he played, but
no, but his antics. But again, if I'm another team in the league, I'm okay with that, because he's not getting the rebounds and they're ending up in Michael Jordan's hands. I would have paid him.
That was kind of like a roundabout. Jordan was out for a year, for most of a year. The things fell through with San Antonio, because I thought him and David Robinson, I thought that meant championship.
Well, they should have won. They should have won both those chips. Yeah. If Houston has them, they should have gone to San Antonio. But once being a weirdo, man. But once Mike came back and they lost, and he was looking at the team, everybody's looking at that team, and I'm like, okay, well, they lost Horace, they lost BJ, they lost all these. They have nobody left from the first repeat except for Pip. So it's like they have to retool. How do you replace Horace? Is there another power forward out there that can replace Horace? Well, Rodman's worn out his welcome in San Antonio. Now he can't replace Horace's scoring, but he can overcompensate that with his rebounding, and his level of defense is higher. So, and his IQ is probably higher, and he's a better passer than Horace. Yeah. So, like, yeah, you don't get that consistent 15 to 18 foot jumper that Horace is going to knock down, but you get so much more else. And Dennis, so you trade for Dennis for Dennis, and somebody who is a who I will officially say this is the placeholder for scrub, NBA scrub. Now, no, we both know, we've talked about this before, nobody that makes the NBA is a scrub in basketball terms. But for the NBA, a scrub of the NBA, they made the trade for Dennis Rodman and Jack Haley, quintessential NBA scrub.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was on the team because they needed a white guy on the team.
He got traded because he was Dennis's. He got there because he was Dennis's boy.
Yeah,
he was Dennis's boy, and he could try to keep Dennis in line a little bit. That's the only reason he had that job. It wasn't because of what he was doing on the court. He was an NBA scrub. But to me, it's like, once I hear that trade is potentially going to happen, I am saying, San Antonio, what do you want? Because I will pay Dennis Rodman to sit at home and not play for my team, because I don't think my coach can handle him, as long as he's not getting rebounds for Michael, Jeffrey, Jordan. And somehow no one had that thought. And and the Drexler trade to me is in that same category. Well, Dream is struggling. He's struggling. The loss of Otis Thorpe was impacted them severely in the interior defense. Robert Horry was playing, but he was playing okay, but he was still his second year.
Still young. Yeah.
He was still young. It was his second year. Max had lost his mind. They had to trade. Max was losing his mind. They couldn't control him. He's going out to the club all the time. Rudy's losing his mind over the guy, and he's going into the stands to fight people. And there was a whole bunch
of was deserved. Those people deserved it.
No, they deserved it. But the team is in disarray.
Yeah.
So they make the trade, and I'm like, Clyde is hungry. Clyde knows Michael's gone. This is my shot to make it happen. I had never seen, not that Clyde ever looked unfocused, but he was so determined.
No expression,
no smiles. He jammed on somebody. That smirk he used to give, that was gone. He was all business. Yeah. And to me, it's like, how can you let that trade happen? From another team, I am keeping Clyde away from Houston, especially because that's his college teammate. That's his homie. That's his running mate. That that was going to rejuvenate them both. And it was like, oh, 5 Summer Jam again. Let's do this.
So I think that was part of it, though, is that Portland knew that it was like, and they felt like it was time for them to go into rebuild mode, and they knew that they wanted to do right by him, is the way I took it. So they sent him home, you know, sent him to play with Dream. I think that was I thought that was a classy move from them,
No,
but
no disagreement. I
I
wouldn't have
get
made.
what you're saying.
As a competitor, me as a GM, I wouldn't have made that move. I'd have done something a little less classy. So I might have sent him to a contender or a team that's like third, fourth in the East or something like that. I wasn't going to send him to the perfect scenario for him. That I wasn't going to do. I'd have sent him to New York and see if he could work with Patrick before I'm sending him to Houston within my conference where he's going to potentially be a dagger in my heart. Like I'm sending him to the other side of the country if I'm doing that. But that's me. I'm not that nice.
Nah, that's fair. I think also the NBA probably was in no position because remember the first year post Jordan, you know, it was okay because there was still that buzz, but the NBA clearly was looking weaker because like despite all how well everybody likes to talk about Dream, which I love Dream, but that Knicks Rocket series that was straight up bar fight.
Oh, I
Um,
loved it.
it
Oh my
was
god.
like nobody was making shots. It was tough, and so I think that's next year. They was like, we got to get these ratings up. I'm pretty sure if we got Clyde in here, get better ratings, maybe.
I doubt it because Clyde wasn't the. No, it's just because the NBA, the NBA has made some questionable marketing decisions, in my opinion. And one of the questionable decisions, in my opinion, was to put every egg into the Michael Jordan basket.
Yeah,
And that's only because the man can't play forever. And it doesn't make sense to me why you would stop building stars. You have your brightest stars shine, but you have to be constantly cultivating new stars to keep this business going because these guys can't play forever. You know,
that
you built Jordan up while Magic and Bird were shining bright. Like it's not like you haven't done this before. So like why did you just stop? As Jordan started to ascend and he started to win, you need to be like, okay, who else? Who are we going to start? Who are we going to build up here?
yeah,
Now granted, some tragedy struck because I do think that they were going to try to really shine a big light on Reggie Lewis, and that unfortunate passing happened.
yeah.
You know, but you know, you had to look at some of these young guys and be like, okay, we really need to start boosting them up. Now, partially on Jordan's side, his abrupt retirement definitely probably shook them a bit because they hadn't had the time to put Shaq up into the pedestal that they wanted to put him on. Um,
They
you
didn't
know,
know that Penny was gonna, be that quickly.
right, exactly. And then so like, and I think then you had and then 93, 94 was Grant and Jay Kidd's rookie year.
Yeah,
So like, they were just coming in. So they but to me it's like come on, you really you weren't planning. Like I would have had more than just Shaq starting
but
to be built up. You
that
know what
was
I'm
the
saying?
thing. Like they're still to this day, like they put so many eggs in the LeBron basket that
Yes.
people think that Steph is regular. People think KD, like these dudes are like all time, and they could have been building like a triangle or something, but it's just like they focus so much on LeBron, and now you got all these young like Shea. I'm so mad. Like Shea is so good at basketball, dude. Like they should be pumping money in, and we haven't seen him getting in any trouble or anything off the court.
Yeah.
You got Cade. Now I get it because Cade has had some injuries and stuff, but like we're seeing like you got a lot of guys that you need to be hyping up, and they just don't care.
They do. Um So the two guys you mentioned are two players I love. But there's one thing that a lot of these up and coming players don't have, or that actually, I'm not gonna say they don't have. I'm gonna say either they're lacking it or we have not witnessed a lot of it. And I think I started to see some more of it out of Cade in Game 2 of the Knicks Pistons series. But Shea and Cade and a lot of these other up and coming stars, they seem to lack a certain level of charisma. You know, they're a lot of them are very reserved, tone, laid back kids. They're not, and again, nobody's the intensity of MJ or the intensity of Kobe, and I don't expect them to be. But you can't tell me, that there aren't people who have, you know, you can't tell me other greats don't have that high level intensity because it's not like it was just such super rare thing between Mike and Kobe. Magic had it, Bird had it,
Bird
Zeke
had
had
it.
it, and you had role players who had that level of
That
intensity. They
personality.
just they just didn't have the skill set and everything else that those super upper echelon players had. But no, I don't think. I mean, you can't name somebody who wanted it more than Lambeer. He just didn't have the body to do what those guys did. He didn't have that skill set.
And even
But
with him, like I know you know this, but he wasn't like people try to act like he was just out there beating people alive. He was a
oh,
great rebounder.
oh
Uh,
yeah, an excellent.
before y'all adopted the prison style, he was still a good player.
Yes, he
You
was.
know
He was a
what I mean?
two-time All Star in
Yeah,
Cleveland.
yeah. So it's like I think people they automatically, you see the clips and stuff, and it's like, okay, this is just a thug. But
Oh, because
no,
all they show is him, taking Bird out the air, or him fighting
yeah,
Barkley, or fighting Brad Doherty, or whatever. They don't show the clips of, the what
him helping to
36%, shooting from three. They don't show the 80% shooting from the free throw line. They don't see him knocking down big time shots. They don't see the rebounding,
and
the
he was
effect.
clutch
Oh,
too.
he
Like he
bit
would hit
clutch, especially
in the
from the
moment.
line. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially from the free throw line, clutch free throws. They
yeah.
don't see those outlet passes. Like people used to talk about, oh, Robin's a great outlet passer. Yeah, he learned it from Bill
Where'd he
Lambier.
get it from? Right.
That's where he got it from.
Like
Like,
that dude was a hooper, man.
yeah. But like the intensity, like even guys like Lambier, full of charisma. Didn't I mean, no, who else is no one else has loved to be the villain like Lambier, getting the fans to boo him and egging them on. Like
Right.
th- these players, and I just it's hard to market nonchalantness. The NBA had that problem with Tim Duncan. They tried to market him, and it was hard because he was so laid back. He is still so laid back and so nonchalant. When you have so many of these younger players who are so nonchalant, it's like, how do you promote these guys? Because Shea, I mean, you don't hear a peep from that man. He is church mouse quiet.
You can promote their games, like you can, like think.
You can promote the game, and 'cause they can promote the games and the athletes and what they can do. You and I will gravitate immediately to that because we're ball fans. But you and I are not the average consumer that they are marketing to. They have to have somebody that can capture the imagination of the larger target audience. And they don't have a lot of guys. And I think that's part of the reason why they're holding on so tightly to LeBron, to Steph, to KD, because those guys have that an aura of charisma and personality, whether it's positive, like LeBron and Steph, or it's kind of like, with KD and his Twitter accounts and always going back and forth with fans. But it's something that's engaging that the common person can latch on to outside of their game. Cade really does not have that. Now he showed some flash in this playoffs. He's been talking, he putting that mellowed after the fast break dunk, showing a little bit more more charisma. Shea, I've never seen a bit of charisma on Shea. And I love I go to work, I do my job, I do a well approach, but you can't be a big star in the league, especially one of the faces of the league, without some charisma. Even Grant Hill, as quiet as he was, Grant had charisma.
Yeah, I think they can. I hear what you're saying. I think that like they like Joker doesn't have charisma, but they've been trying with him, Luca.
They've give
Like
they've given up on him. And Luca's got charisma. I don't like his game, especially
right,
you know me, especially defensively. And I don't, you know, it's not to knock on Luca. I'm not a big fan of his game, but the
mm,
guy's talented and he's full of charisma. He gets involved. He likes to chirp it up. He was flirting with the female ref, a couple years ago. It made everybody laugh. Like Luca is, and that's why he's in LA, because he's full of charisma, and they need a full of charisma star in LA. And that's been the staple of the Lakers since Magic, is having a full of charisma star, or stars. So I mean, Luca is one of these new guys that does have the charisma, but some of these other younger guys, they don't. Most of them don't have it. Um, you would want like a Trey Young charisma in a Shea or in a Cade,
mm.
you know, because Trey's full of charisma. He's full of charisma in deep threes. That's about it. Um, that's about all Trey's gonna give you. He's never gonna, in my opinion, he's never gonna be that upper echelon star that you can make one of the faces of the league, that you can really market the league around. Joker, as talented as he is, he's a simple dude from Europe who in the offseason wants to go tend to his horse farm. Like, that dude does not want to be the face of the league. He doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have. You look at his face. He looks like a farm boy. He looks like a big farm boy. And anyone listening, I mean, that's not a knock. Like, he just, and I love that for him. He's content with that. The league doesn't like it because they want to build up in Europe. They want to continue the European influx, and they would love him to be the face of the league, but he doesn't have the charisma to do that. Someone
But
like
that's
Russell,
so
someone like Russell Westbrook has the charisma past his prime. You
yeah.
know,
So this is
Kawhi
one
Leonard,
of
another cat. Kawhi's got no charisma. All the
this is
talent in the world, but none.
another thing though that like I feel like is lacking today. Is remember we had inside the NBA and or NBA whatever it was.
Yeah, we had inside
Uh,
the NBA. We had
with Ahmad
NBA. We had
Rashad, we had like
NBA stuff.
yeah, stop there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we had like these shows where they also get you to know because I mean, John Stockton was prickly. He wasn't charismatic, but it's like there's ways that you can introduce people, and I think there's also like there needs to be a talk about the game at this point because like we hear so many people talking about how nobody plays like nobody posts up anymore. But if you look at the defenses that they're running, they're like bracketing the post. It's very hard unless you can, get down the court first. It's hard to get good position in the post. And there's all these little nuances of how the game's being played today. And we just, and I've been there myself where it's like, oh, this some bull, but like understanding like there's a lot of stuff happening out there that it actually is good basketball. It's just
Yes, there
with,
is.
but I think that all comes with it. Like they need to, and I wonder because even like with baseball, like they don't market players. You remember when we were kids, like Ricky Henderson was a freaking God and like uh just like all these different guys, Cal Ripken Jr., like all these dudes, it was like they
The
don't market
the
players
Bash,
like that.
Canseco and McGuire, the Bash brothers,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. They, Ricky was doing pizza commercials, and oh man, yeah, and Cal Ripken, and you know,
Like so many
obviously
people.
Jeter and A Rod, and
And then
but even
wherever you're home,
before them, I remember Ozzie Smith had some type of commercial. I think he did a thing with the Wiz.
mm-hmm.
Like Nobody Beats the Wiz, and I think they had a campaign with Ozzie Smith. Maybe I'm tripping, but I think they did. Like you had, but again, those guys, Jose Canseco, not as much regard, but Canseco, full of charisma. Ozzie Smith, full of charisma. Some guys like Tony Gwynn, superstar player, no charisma. You know, but I'll tell
But
you
he
this.
still got marketed. Like we still weren't questioning like how great of a player he was. You know what I'm saying? Like
I'll
that.
say, but I'll say this though. part of the problem with the marketing, and I don't blame this on the NBA or the MLB, um, because I shouldn't say I don't blame them. I think the transition's been harder because obviously I don't know inner workings, but my assumption is that there's not enough executives making decisions that are younger enough or younger in thought enough to transition to the current way you have to market with this internet age. Because when we were younger, especially the 80s, and actually I'll say especially in the 90s, the 90s was a fantastic job of marketing the leagues as well as the ancillary companies that helped market the league. Gatorade, Nike, Adidas, like Tom Glavine and Greg Maddox, both very low key pitchers, but they have one of my favorite baseball commercials when they see the girls all going making go eyes at Mark McGuire, and then they start doing their training to hit, and then they're cranking it like, yeah, chicks dig the long ball. Yeah, had and it's a great commercial. It has nothing to do with Nike equipment. It's got it's got ultimately nothing to do with baseball, but it's two baseball players who are fantastic pitchers who generally you don't see a bit of humor or personality out of. Now you've got personality. You see they make a joke. It's funny, and it resonates. You know Reebok and the Reebok commercials with even the 2000s with AI and Jada, the Reebok commercials with Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt commercials, Shaq's Reebok commercials, and some of my and to me the greatest, even better than Mike's. I think the best shoe campaign was the Little Penny run.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
The Little Penny run was amazing marketing. It sold the shoes, it built up Penny, it built up the league. It was a win-win for everybody, for Nike, Penny, and the league. We don't even Kobe had his Young Adidas commercials, and then there was so much of that being done. You don't see those ads now because television and stuff is broadcasted so differently now. So they have to find a way to, outside of not having the inside stuff as a show and stuff like that, that are marketed towards kids. And I think that's another problem. They need to market some of that stuff towards kids again. But you've got to find a way to market these guys and show more of their personalities that they have. Because who knows? Like Shea could be the funniest dude in the world. We just wouldn't know because they really haven't put him on a platform to do it.
We found out Kawhi was a fun guy,
We found out Kawhi we found out Kawhi has the goofiest laugh in the world, and they're like, "All right, we never going to do that again."
But I think some of the factors, since they're playing these players so much now, they're like, "No, you go market yourself," and then also. It's not like back in the old days when dudes would get in trouble and it would kind of get swept under the rug. So it's like you would put it like think about what Nike was trying to do with Ja, and then Ja started wanting to be John Wick, so John Wick, it's like what they did with Kyrie. Like Kyrie's shoe was like probably top 3 because everybody was trying to wear his shoe and Paul George. And we know Kobe is number 1, but the fact that they put all this money in and they try to invest in the campaign, and then you go do some wild stuff.
So, yeah, but
I see it.
I see what you're saying there, but I can't recall a Kyrie shoe commercial. Like, yeah, they had a campaign. He had his own line, but I can't recall a Kyrie shoe commercial. I can't recall a Paul George shoe commercial. Shoot, I just saw for the first time on Instagram a Blake Griffin Jordan shoe commercial. I was like, when was this? I don't remember this.
Yeah, no,
it was actually a decent commercial. I was like, when was this? Where was this broadcast? I had never seen it.
Yeah, but they put their money into, of course, marketing to the kids. So you got the ads, like all that kind of stuff. Because I know, from coaching, kids was like always trying to get, like I said, Kobe's, Paul George, Kyrie. Those was like top three.
But I don't understand how they are because I got
Well,
kids
first of all,
and
the
my kids be
shoes are.
having, but no, like I mean, but how are they doing it? It's not print media.
Well,
If it's
now
ads
these.
on YouTube, like my kids have YouTube on and stuff all the time. They're watching kids stuff. I don't see no ad targeting. Those kids, whether it's for like a Nike or
I
Adidas or
get.
the league
I
itself. Like I don't see it.
I do. I get Kyrie ads now for his shoe. So I see him, but then also like the marketing also goes through AAU, and so you see these kids wearing these shoes, but like kids talk. So once like the Kyrie shoe is very comfortable. I own a couple of pairs of Kyrie's, not even to hoop in, just to walk around in because they're very comfortable. Kobe's shoes was like the most comfortable. And then I didn't get Paul George just because he falls apart in the fourth quarter of games. I don't need that kind of energy around me. I need killers.
Playoff P don't stand for that no more. Playoff P means playoff Pistons, baby. That's what
Listen,
playoff P
I
means
always
now.
I always spelled that P out PEE because nah, it was nah. I understand why people like think highly of him, but I've never thought he was that dude. He good, and he looks like the prototype, but
He is the prototype. He just doesn't have the same makeup. And look, come on. When they took Miami in that Eastern Conference Finals, when he was balling out, it looked like Paul was going to be that this next dude. Like,
it did.
and that initial leg injury in Vegas playing for Team USA did not help him at all. And honestly, I was so pissed when that happened because I've been saying forever that that arena was too small, and they proved it because if they would have been in a regular size arena, he'd have
He
had
got
clearance. He'd have had clearance to land properly, and he wouldn't have broke his leg. Like, I mean,
yeah,
and not that would have changed his mental makeup, but it definitely impacted the trajectory of his career.
yeah,
But his mental makeup, unfortunately, is not what it takes to be that dude. But he has all the tools. He
all the
is. I mean, he is objectively one of the best. And I hate the term, but one of the best two-way players we've ever seen. He's got the bag offensively. He can take it to the rack. He can shoot the mid-range. He can shoot the three, and
I'm just not gonna say that we've ever seen, but I'm gonna say he was
he's
a
up
very
there.
good two.
He
I seen him get.
he's up there.
I seen
But
dudes cut him up. Like I don't like defensively. Again, he has all the tools, but he like what he did in that the couple series against Miami. We never saw that level of
no,
energy. That level.
we saw it one more time. We saw it when he dragged those Clippers to the conference finals.
He ain't dragged nobody, man. I
He
watched him.
dragged them because
No,
Kawhi got hurt. He
he
dragged them.
was the guy, but all them boys got together and like
No, the
went
team played. The
played
team
hard.
collectively played well, but he
He
was
wasn't
pulling.
like
He was
killing.
pulling them.
He wasn't closing games out or nothing like that. He was just out there, and everybody automatically like, oh, it's Paul George. It wasn't.
That
Don't be
was.
fooled, people. Don't be fooled. I was
I'm gonna
watching.
give Paul a little more credit than Greg is on that one, because there was a game that he there was he did a heck of a job, and they went to 7 games, I think it was. Like,
Yeah, he did.
and he played. He was playing so well. People were starting to say, "Are the Clippers better without Kawhi?" Now, I thought that was an asinine statement,
Yeah.
but I mean that's how good they looked with him, leading the charge, so to speak.
When
But
are we supposed to have a
I
topic? We over
we
here.
do, yeah,
I just thought about it. We've been.
we do have a couple topics, because we had we weren't able to connect for a couple weeks. So first one is a it's a little bit of old news. So this is not current news to anybody, but it's something that I believe is worth talking about. And that is the absolute. Okay, before I put this topic forth, I wanted to be clear for any of the fans, super fans of this particular player. This is not solely on your guy. Okay. This is a generational thing, and a lot of players have been making asinine statements like this. However, he particularly made this insane asinine statement. So he is going to be the focal point of this topic, but he is not the only one engaging in this behavior. So recently, LeBron James was on the um, Pat McAfee show, and I almost forgot his name because I can't stand McAfee. But he was on the McAfee show, and he declared that Giannis would score 250 points in a NBA game if he played in the 70s. Um, I would just like you to explain why, because we're not going to sit here and say that it could happen or that it's not an insane asinine level statement, because it is. But I would like you to extol your wisdom and knowledge and to explain to our listeners why that is such an insane and asinine statement.
So the biggest reason why I hate these type of arguments is that if you put him in the 70s, if you time machine him into the 70s, it'll be great. But if you were to ship him back and make him live the regular experience, then Giannis would be Artist Gilmore. Like, like great, super duper athlete, not the greatest offensively, but he can score some.
Well, let's say this. Let's say you time machine him. You Terminator time machine him into the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Today, with what he is today.
What he is today, you Terminator time machine him into the 70s.
All right. So he's not a very good free throw shooter. I would give him, if they let him play the way he plays today, I would give him
no,
20, 25.
He's time machined into the 70s. So
but that's
he's
what I'm
coming.
saying.
No, so he's coming into the 70s like Arnold did in T1, butt naked, just him coming from the future into the 70s. He doesn't get to carry none with him. He can't play the way he plays now. He has to play the way they played in the 70s.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about good
true
size,
time machine.
Good size for a center. Not very good post footwork. He can't shoot free throws very well. He would be a great defender probably. He'd have to put on weight, and like you probably be looking at like 22 per game, maybe. But here's the thing, like they're not going to give you the ball a lot if you don't have post moves and you can't make free throws. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and these are things that we've seen Giannis try to work to get better at. And he's still,
and not to knock him, he's improved, especially that mid-range game. Because anyone listening to this show knows we've been praising his mid-range game.
But how many 7-footers was allowed to just come down and pull up mid-range shots back then? You know what I mean? Everything was at the basket. The rules were different. You're talking about all the holding and grabbing and fouling that he would be subjected to. It wouldn't. No, I mean the 200 is just that's we all know that's like hyperbole, but even 35, like 30, like you think about what Kareem had to do. Like he had to come up with ways to score. So the skyhook let him deal with less contact, which prolonged his career because he didn't have to go down there and just bang. He had like a money shot from anywhere inside of 15 feet.
Yep.
So and every time you doubled him, he would just find the open guy. So it's just no, I don't like it because again, you have to like if you go back, you look at Giannis's skill set and then you try to put him into a 70s or 80s post player, it just would look real different. Now
it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
You know,
Now I will.
he can't dribble back then because they're going to call him for a carry every time he tries to dribble.
Yeah, that
He
too.
can't, he's going to get called for a million travels because he can't be doing the Baylor step, with 3 strides the way he does.
Right.
He can't be taking 2 steps after he jump stops like he does. So he's not going to get those points that he gets now. And on top of that, um, the nuance of the equipment, he's going to be wearing Chuck Taylors. He ain't going to be wanting to be doing all that athletic stuff the way he does in
Right.
Chuck Taylors. He's going to be playing on those terrible floors with those substandard balls that they had to use in the 70s because they didn't really get decent basketball, like the technology of the ball, until the 80s.
And they were
And a lot
still
of those
using.
in a lot of those courts, like the Boston Garden and the Forum and such, were older courts that had a lot of dead spots that were tough to negotiate, particularly the Garden, notorious for that. You would have players who would avoid entire sections of the floor because
Right.
you couldn't dribble on it,
The dead
like
spot. Yeah.
dead spots and stuff. Like you
Weren't they
don't.
still in buses in the 70s?
Yes,
Not everybody was
yeah,
flying, you know,
and if you flew commercial because
commercial.
until 89, 88, 89, when the Pistons started being the first
Started
team to
doing
travel by private plane, you either were on the bus most of the time, and then you had to go a coast trip,
long
either West Coast,
distance.
East Coast. Then you
Yeah.
flew commercial. So
Yeah.
you don't. Your team had one trainer. They didn't have a team of trainers. They had one
And they
trainer.
had the weight program.
They didn't have the weight program. They didn't have no massage therapist. They didn't have any of that stuff.
No.
So to me, I think his athleticism, his motor, and his hustle get him to about 20 a game, 20 and 10. I think he'd still be a star, but I don't think
But
he
you
would.
also got to think, man, like they stopped calling offensive fouls. Like
Yeah, you
around
can't run over
20,
people.
yeah, around 2012, 2011, 2012, they stopped calling. I reckon it was because of one particular person,
Mm-hmm.
but after they made it like for him, then everybody. So I go on, like you could click on it any game and you're gonna like you see an offensive foul almost every play. Like if there's ever somebody attempting to drive, boom, like you get away with slapping people's hands, like all kinds of stuff that used
Mm-hmm.
to just be fouls.
It used to
So
be we could only put our arm up to try to guard, but we couldn't be pushing them back and
right,
shoving the way they are, and
right,
like a certain player
elbow,
likes the stiff arm on that one post move he has. It's a
yeah,
flat out stiff arm.
yeah. So, but and Giannis gets away with driving into people's bodies all the time.
Right into their chest, yeah, and
So
then that was
that
an
you
offensive foul back in the day.
right. So you take that out, even if you were moving, like it's still an offensive foul. Remember, like they would be like you're out. They called it a player control, out of control. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so it's like that's gone now. So you have to consider, like you said, he couldn't dribble up the court without getting like breaking multiple rules. It's just a weird, it's a goofy thing to say, and then like something that I always like. So I think you and I are in that same area where we started playing like probably real competitive basketball in the later 80s, right? Around like 87, 88, where
Well,
you're
80s
playing
for you,
with,
90s for me, but yeah,
so playing with grown men with like these ridiculously talented, super athletic guys. But again, like I spent a summer playing basketball all summer and on asphalt with chucks on. You know what I'm saying? That makes me sound older than I am, but I did it. You know what I mean? And I had like all the old heads, like that's all you need. That's all we had. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And it probably destroyed like a lot of my athletic potential because my legs, my knees were messed up for like 2 years while I was in high school. But this is not about me. The point is, every step of the way, I've like when I encountered dudes that wasn't even close to NBA level, but athleticism was crazy. And so it's like you're assuming, and it's safe to assume because you're so far removed from it, that these dudes was just like regular dudes running up and down the court. No, these guys were like the best athlete. By the time the 70s came in and they weren't, limiting how many black people you could have on your team anymore, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at mostly the best athletes that play basketball in the country and at that time in the world, because nobody else
World.
was playing basketball like us.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's dudes that like I think one of the fastest dudes I ever played, just in pickup ball. He matched up with Allen Iverson one time in college and came back to me and was like, dude, he's like, I never seen anything like that. I'm like, no, but no, you're really, really fast, bro. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's just different. It's just
Yeah.
different. So like you're looking at these guys because it's an older time and you automatically assume the athleticism wasn't there. It was there. It just, like you said, you got so much more, medically, technology wise. We didn't have a Vertimax.
Right.
We didn't have a Vertimax. We was standing on doing calf raises on the stair step.
Yeah, exactly. We
We
were we were
tried.
doing wall sits, and
What were those strength shoes that
oh,
were supposed to help you?
yeah, I might see. I couldn't afford no strength shoes, so my dad bought me the jump soles that strapped on to my shoes.
Mm-hmm.
That did the same thing, but just weren't $200, and they didn't make strength shoes my size anyway. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah, you got some big ass
I
Fred Flintstone feet. Um, yeah, like we used like my boy got a pair, and at that time we were like the same size, so he would share them, and all that did was give me tendonitis. Like,
I can't front. My jump soles added 9 inch. No, yeah, 9 inches to my vertical.
see, you probably had a better thing than us. What helped us, what I can truly say helped us is um, my friend's mom. She got us into because she worked at a bank, so she got us into Spud Webb camp at Centenary College
Okay.
in Shreveport, Louisiana. And so we didn't care about nothing. We just wanted Spud to show us how to dunk. And so like these are the camps where like kids gotta pay and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you got like these little rich kids. So all these drills, we're just like destroying. They're like our age, but we're just destroying them. Like y'all, like we serious. Y'all just out here. And we stayed, and afterwards he told us that he did the stair, the calf raises.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, we all went home, and I think we was probably competing quietly, not telling anybody. But I'm gonna do 1,000 a night, legs just like rubber. But a few
No,
months later, we was all like doing
flying.
crazy stuff.
No, I had the exact. My story is very similar, except for I didn't have the pleasure of being at Spud Webb's camp, but um, there was a camp in the Pittsburgh area where we were living at the time. Shout out to Coach Hoy, who rest in peace, and the all the alumni of Born to Run basketball camp that was out in Pittsburgh. But there was one of the counselors there, his brother named Jody. Jody was 5'5", brick of muscle, and his calves looked like baseballs on the back of his legs constantly. And Jody was the one who was doing plyometric stuff with us, and he told calf raises, and we would do. He has doing calf raises forever, and he's like, "Yeah, I do calf raises. I do wall sits. I do these. I do step ups. Those are what you need to do to increase your vertical." And from meeting him at camp, I want to say it was like 92, 93. I think 92, 93. I had like a natural, like 20-inch vertical. 3 years later, mixing in with Jody taught me and getting the jump soles, I went from like a 20-inch to 42.
Damn,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Which as a at that time 5'8", 5'9" kid playing against the grown men, playing power forward, playing against the trees, I had a
Yeah,
42 inch vert. I
yeah.
had to because I was playing small forward power. I was trying to play. I was trying to be Dennis. Like I never
Mhm.
thought if I made the league that I was going to be one of these star players. I was, from a football family, broad shouldered, built like a football player. If I was going to make it, I was going to have to play like Dennis. I
Yeah.
love to do the dirty work.
Mhm.
I love to bang. I love to box out. I love that. I love taking charges.
Yeah.
But yeah, those calf raises, man. Yeah, I would be pumping hundreds out a day. Yeah, you had to. We didn't have any of that. I mean, and
Right.
granted, I don't deny these youth the wonderful things that technology has given them, but when you talk about comparing eras and placing somebody in that time frame, you have to understand the nuances that come with all of that,
Yeah.
and that and that
We
they're
we
like,
didn't have we didn't have trainers, and we didn't have anybody to teach us moves. Like half the moves I came up with, I figured out I could do it on the court. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the first time I did like a really good reverse layup, it was in practice. I think it was freshman year, and this dude threw me a pass, and I was supposed to lay it up, but it was bad. So I jumped and I just kind of like held it and went under the goal and laid it up with my left hand. And everybody in there was like, ah, like I did, like I was Jordan or something. But it was like we didn't have like I didn't. Nobody taught me a step back jumper. I watched like
we
Jordan, Reggie Miller, um, crossover. Now I'm not gonna lie, I studied Tim Hardaway's crossover like nobody's business. I
But
probably
see,
put
you're not contradicting yourself because you watched and you studied. No one taught you the UTEP two step. You
no.
watched, and the best example I can give for you listeners, if you don't, for you to understand what we're describing and what it was like in that era, is go to Max and search the documentary Hoop Dreams, and within the first 10 minutes of that documentary, you will see both of the focal points of the movie watching the NBA players, then going to the court and mimicking what they saw.
Yep.
We didn't have private coaches to meeting us at courts. Well, started to in the 90s. Because I had a private coach for a little bit, but that was one summer. Like it was not the norm. And you went out there and you tried it out. You saw a move like, oh, okay, I think I'm going to be able to do that. This will help me.
You
You went out there and you tried it and you tried
you
it and you tried it and you
you,
tried it.
you played a lot of
And you,
basketball.
yeah, and then you
You
worked it on your own, and then you went out and saw, okay, now I can do it on my own. Now let me see if I can do it in a game with
right.
somebody on me. And you worked it out and you worked it out. Like
Yep.
that's how you find out. Because I've seen so many people who can do drills in a gym, but they can't ball.
Can't even think like
They can't
can't
put it
even
together.
think their way through a game of basketball. Like remember how you used to like you go somewhere to play pickup and it don't matter who it is like back then if you couldn't shoot you didn't shoot. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like so like and we played like I can't yeah, I think all the way through we never played 2 pointers, like 3 pointers and nothing like that. When we played pickup games it was one. And so
Every bucket's
that
a
meant
one.
so that meant that don't shoot that mess if you can't shoot it. Like only the shooters shoot. Everybody kind of fit and played like different roles. But it's like you learned how to play. Like you could put me like I watched Magic Johnson so much. I feel like some of his IQs like seeped into my head. I ain't saying I'm that smart because I think he's like the smartest, like wise, like understanding.
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
gonna get
no.
this assist, but if I make this pass, it's gonna lead to a wide open layup. Like just
Yes,
like
because
seeing and manipulating the court. I learned that kind of stuff watching him, watching Isaiah. You
yes.
know, I learned
'Cause Magic is one of the first to really um and look, I mean, you being a Laker fan watching Magic, me being a Michigan native, watching Magic, like we watched a ton of Magic, and he was really the one that made that. even though they don't count it, that hockey assist. He's the one that really
Mhm.
showed us that hockey assist, and that's one thing I love about hockey, man. Counting that as an assist because it is
Yeah.
like that's the play that set up the big pass that make the basket or make the goal. Like it would be insane if they counted that in basketball with how many it would be, but the fact that now people start to recognize, and that mostly that was Magic recognizing, oh, this pass here is so that leads to this pass
Yeah,
here to
it's
get the easy
similar.
bucket. It's
Right.
so pivotal, and it's such a high basketball IQ thing.
Yeah. And watching, like, even though I was a Georgetown fan, and so I had to hate Syracuse, but I remember watching Sherman Douglas, like,
Oh, Sherm, yeah.
watch him like set up his offense. So it's like this is what we were doing. We didn't have trainers, and who was that? It was somebody from the 80s that was talking. He said he went to see somebody working out, and the guy was like working on like the same move over and over again. And he's like, I wish I would have had my mind, in that kind of place, because you could really sharpen and refine. Our thing was you do your calisthenics, you do whatever, and then you get on the court, dog, and that's how you figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot, it's a lot different. I heard Rick Barry talk about that, like all the things, now, like the strength program, like all that kind of stuff. I remember, like, high school, we didn't have a strength program
Same.
when I got there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, most high schools, the only team that had a strength program would be a football team.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was like you went out there, you do push-ups and sit-ups and stretch and go play.
And you got to remember, we were encouraged not to lift because they
Right.
didn't want us. They didn't want us too bulky.
Bulking up. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a lot. Like, not only that, but one of the things I get, like, people not understanding, like, when I was a freshman, I think I was like 5'8" or 5'9". They made me play. They were trying to make me be a center, like a power forward and a center. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if I didn't go work on, like guard stuff on my own,
Oh yeah,
then I would have,
they had you there. Absolutely.
yeah. So at a certain point, my sophomore year, my JV coach had me starting as a point guard, and then on the varsity team, where the kids are much bigger, I'm a freaking
power forward,
backup power forward.
Yeah.
So it's like, so
man,
you think about
that happened to me too.
Right. So remember when I sent when we saw like a clip of Costas Antetokounmpo, and I sent it, and he's out there balling, looking like Giannis, right?
Yeah.
And I said to you, I was like, just imagine what we might have missed out on if Jason Kidd didn't put the ball in that man's hand.
Right.
If they just tried to make him be a four, you know what I mean? Like a regular traditional
four.
Like, we might have missed out on like one of the best, power forwards ever. So, like, but think about that, and then think about in 1983, is any coach putting the ball in the hands of a 7-foot kid like Giannis?
I would say not the way they are. I would say once they got into their half court set, yes.
Yeah, but
but as far as being the point power forward, no.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't happen. But also there's the other nuance that because roles were so defined back then and they're so less defined now, that if you took that away from your point guard, not only did your like coach really would have to trust you, because like people act like big guys with handles is like this new thing. Like, because like John Sally was talking about how Chuck Daly yelled at him for getting the rebound and bringing the ball up the court. Because John's like, man, I'm from Brooklyn. Like, I got handles. Like, I'm from New York. Like, I can dribble this thing. And Chuck was like, you see that guy over there? Who's that? Isaiah Thomas. Who's that guy over there? Joe Dumars. Give them the ball.
Right.
Like,
okay, what you think?
Okay, and for a guy his size, Sal could handle it. But the philosophy and the main philosophy was get the ball to the ball handlers. Primarily, one, because it's their job, but two, that's their money you're messing up. If you're bringing the ball up and the point guard, especially the traditional point guard, is not getting his dimes and leading the team and being that second coach on the floor, you're messing up his money.
Right.
And that's and people talk about like and I don't you say it to knock Russ or anybody that's average a triple double, but it's particularly it seems like it's a knock on Russ because he's a point guard. But I'm like, you don't see people giving up on rebounds, especially fourth and fives, because that's their money.
That's their money, right?
That's their money. Like there would never be a time where Steven Adams boxes out so that Russell Westbrook can get the rebound. No, he's getting that rebound. I remember a story there. Somebody was talking about how Reggie they got a rebound over Reggie Evans, and Reggie was like threatening to beat him up if they took his money again.
Yeah.
I completely believe Reggie Evans said that because that was his money.
And you know what the other part of that is, because we see it. So like, I was watching Gil's Arena, which is hilarious. It's entertaining. I don't always agree with everything.
It's entertainment, yes.
It's straight entertainment. And they were talking about the Mike Malone firing, and they were coming at it from the the superstar standpoint. And Nick Young said it, which made me happy. Because Nick doesn't try to act like Nick was a very good player.
Very good player.
Like
could have been better than he was.
Yeah,
he was a very good player.
But he doesn't try to act like he was just, a world beater. And he said it. He said, so these other guys who are sitting here sacrificing every night so you can get a triple double, and you're not like, and you're mad with them. And I don't know if his part of the argument was correct, but I heard that, and that's one of the things I don't think people really process. Just like you said, when Russ is out here getting, 20 rebounds, 20 like those are rebounds that could go to their teammates. When Joker's out here doing all of this, it's like you have a really, really good point guard on your team, like really, really good,
really, really good.
But you're
the fact that he hasn't been an all-star is insane.
Yeah. But you're getting all, like you're racking up all these stats. And, it's like other dudes can play too. So I think that's another thing. I think people be looking at it like it's 2K or something. And they don't understand like the mentals part of that. Like I could be doing a lot more. And I know this dude is good, but I could be doing so much more.
And that's why like, and people always assume it's, age or whatever. But that's why I hold someone like Magic, someone like Bird, someone like Jeek so much higher than a lot of these guys because when they put up their big time numbers, their teammates didn't suffer. Right. Like Bird put up, 20, 25, 26 a game, almost 10 rebounds a game, like 6 assists a game, while Mikal was still averaging almost 20, with DJ averaging 15, Parrish averaging 15. It's like he didn't do that. And then you have freaking Walton coming off the bench averaging like 10. Like he wasn't doing that, and these guys are averaging 8. He's got 4 other. He's got 4. Maxwell, he's got 4 guys in double digits that are averaging this, and he's doing this. Same with Magic. Like,
could he have scored 40 a game? Probably, but his mind state is like, if y'all eat, that makes the game easier for me.
Exactly.
Number one, and then it also keeps people happy because, like, I don't like so. And this is not a knock on Joker. This is just what this style of play does when you want to push everything through one guy. And yes, he's talented, but Aaron Gordon was a scorer, and like he still scores like at times, but he's a guy that could get you 20 a game, like not hard. MPJ, like
all the talent in the world.
Dude, we thought he was like on a KD trajectory coming out of high school. Now he has the back, and I understand that might slow him down some.
Injuries has definitely slowed him down.
Effectively been turned into like a 3-and-D guy. And when you need somebody to play outside of themselves, you can't go to him because he's like 1-2 pull up, like cut. He's not like you can't just give him the ball.
You can't just give him the rock and say go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we know what Jamal is, and like throughout this whole thing, Jamal's always been the closer on that team.
Yep.
And Joker gives him all the credit in the world, but the media acts like, you know.
Well, yeah, that's the media, and yeah, it's like you said, no knock to Joker because I like Joker. I have qualms about his defense, but I mean, I like Joker, and I love and like I might invite this person on the show. I don't know yet, but he and I have gotten into it before on the internet, and we got into it most recently because I said that I said that how did I put it? I said Joker, in my opinion, Joker is people like because we haven't seen this before. A big guy that could do all this, and I'm like, no. I was like, to me, in my opinion, Joker is prime Sabonis.
Way less athletic though.
Correct. But so of course, some people were like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And I'm like, "No, not Domantas Sabonis, Arvydas Sabonis."
Yeah.
Hence why I said prime Sabonis. And then dude starts talking about this and that about Sabonis. I said again, read what I said. Prime Sabonis, not Blazer Sabonis, which I knew was going to be automatically what people were going to immediately revert to. I said, no, Arvydas Sabonis in his prime, thin, young, athletic. He could face up. He could dribble. He could shoot the three. He had
excellent.
He had all the tools.
Yeah,
he had everything. So I said, so no, it's not a knock to say that Joker is at a prime Sabonis level. And I said, I believe that if prime Sabonis played in the NBA during that time frame, if the Cold War hadn't blocked that, he'd have been the third best center in the league behind Kareem and Moses Malone. He'd have been killing.
Bad man, dude. Like the stature, man, like how big and strong he was.
So strong.
Then he really could elevate, and had like a fundamental understanding of the game, bro. Like, but it's the same as like when when Phil Jackson made the Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf comparison with Steph, and everybody was like, "Oh, this was." It's like, bro,
that means you never saw Chris Jackson play,
right? Because that man would like destroy Steph, and I love Steph, but it's a different. Steph's a better shooter, but if they got matched up,
and to me, and I agree, Steph's a better shooter, but it's always would he have been if they allowed them to shoot as much as they let them shoot.
Right, because now that's another thing I always tell people, like, now you get to shoot like yourself into a rhythm. Like Steph can come out and miss 5 threes in a row and still come out and shoot the next one, and he's not getting benched.
Yeah.
Like, whereas back then, if you miss a couple of outside shots, it's probably not your night, buddy. And it was only resigned for the psychos. I call them psychos, but I just mean those great, great scorers, Dominique Wilkins, Bernard King, Jordan, like, where you were allowed to like shoot.
Yes, so super select few were allowed to shoot themselves into rhythm. And actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. They weren't allowed to shoot themselves into rhythm. They were allowed to score themselves into the rhythm. Because if their shot wasn't falling, they're taking it all the way to the rack, or they're getting fouled and they're free throw shooting themselves into a rhythm.
Right.
They weren't shooting 5, 6, 7 threes in a row and bricking them.
Next
they weren't doing that because that would have ended up on the bench regardless of who they were. Michael Jordan, Bernard King, regardless. If you shoot that many threes in a row and you're not hitting them, you're sitting down.
So you think about Wardell Curry, Steph's father, amazing shooter. Every time he shot the ball, it looked like it was going in.
Sure
you got your Dale Ellis's, your Mark Price's, like Craig Hodges, like these. Can you imagine if Craig Hodges was allowed to shoot like 12 threes a game?
Lights out.
He was able to feel that type of rhythm. And he was a real scorer. He wasn't just a shooter.
He was a scorer.
Now, when he got to the Bulls, they didn't really need him to do anything but shoot.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if Larry Bird was allowed to take 10 threes a game?
I mean, and then that's that other nuance. If Giannis is playing the 70s, there is no 3-point line, baby.
Nah,
there's no threes.
They're packing the paint
They're packing the paint.
Even
You can't
if
just
you
run down the middle in
yeah,
the
if
lane
you
and try to junk on everybody.
muscle your way into the point guard position, everybody's gonna leave you at the top of the key, dog. Like, like so nah. But overall, and this is one of the things I think there's. So I was trying to explain to somebody because they were like, "Man, these young people are sick of all this old people disrespect." And I'm like, "Bro, like the whole time I've been alive, it was old people disrespecting the young. You know what I'm saying? So like when in the '80s, you know what I'm saying, when Doc was passing that torch to Magic and them, it was like people looking at them like they're not as good as the guys from the '70s, the '60s. Remember, Wilt was the standard. Wilt was the standard, and I think everybody would say Wilt was the best player ever until Jordan started, making his claim.
Yes,
And
because they would always go to Wilt and say, "Could he beat you? Or is he better than you?" And Wilt would be like, and as for as braggadocious of a person Wilt loved the game and was honest enough to say, "Look, Michael does this extremely well, and Michael does this extremely well." But he'd have had a problem with me here, and in particularly my era, because of this and this. And he wasn't wrong, and he wasn't lying about the fact that in his late 40s, teams in the 80s were still calling to say, "Hey, did you want to maybe come out of retirement and give us 15 a night,
yeah,
15 minutes a night?" Like he wasn't lying about that.
yeah.
He
So
was.
it's always been there where the old heads disrespect the new heads, and then it's up to the new heads to prove to them and show them, right? So like for us, we remember everything. I remember when they was treating Michael Jordan like they hated his baggy pants.
Oh yeah, they hated the baggy shorts.
They hated the tongue.
Oh,
They used to say he
a
was
tongue
like,
hanging out. What is
yeah,
that?
he's a hit like all hip hop and he's flashy, and they
Oh
would
yeah,
say, oh, he
and
can't.
he was
He,
selfish.
yeah, he's selfish. He can't dribble. He worked on his handles. He can't shoot. He got better shooting. He doesn't play no defense. Defensive player of the year. It's like you would prove them wrong on purpose.
Yeah,
Now these guys, they don't want to prove anything. They just want it to be what it is. So that was,
exactly.
like
Yeah,
so,
and they. I mean, honestly, if anything, they made Mike GOAT because they told him he couldn't do all these things and that
right.
he was all these things. And Mike was like, "Oh, really? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
think? Yeah, okay. Watch me. Like they gave him so much fuel. Like I know it's a funny thing that we talk about, like Mike making up stuff to give him motivation.
Uh-huh.
But Mike ain't need a whole lot of stuff
Yeah,
to
not in
make up because
he didn't
people
have to
would doubted
start
him
making
forever.
stuff up until he was like in the '90s.
Yeah,
He had a couple. Because
exactly.
remember, we've never seen a small guy lead his team. It's always been big guys.
Always big.
You always had to have big guys on your team.
And it
that
was
were like
and you were
stars.
never like allowed to be like guys who led the league in scoring weren't championship winners.
No.
That was especially being guards,
Right.
and that wasn't the thing. It wasn't a perimeter driven game.
No.
Like and people and again, and these young kids, they don't understand that because they don't know the game enough. So they go and they make these outlandish things. And I'm gonna have to share this YouTube video with you. I'm gonna make some shorts. I'm gonna stitch some moments out of it where chill from Players Choice podcast. They're big on TikTok. I know you've seen him. Apparently he's like Shaq's distant cousin or whatever. But it was him. They did one of those 10 versus 1. So 10 Gen Zers were wanting to debate him about basketball. And some of the stuff, some of these kids, I'm like, come on, man. And one of the funniest things, someone that you mentioned today, someone we've talked about before, he brought up Del Ellis, and they're like, "Oh no, who is Dale Ellis?" And he's like, well, "That's what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I saw that one. Yeah.
You don't know this game.
How can you
You,
even? Yeah, because the
you
kid was
can't
trying to
claim
say
that you know the game if he brings up people that you should know and you don't know who he's talking about."
that was Dale was one of the first people that like weaponized him and Larry, but I think Dale was shooting more than Larry. But
Yes,
like what like remember like the three for any whippersnappers out there, like three was considered, you know,
a
being a
bad
coward.
shot.
You was like taking an easy way out. It was a bad shot.
Not
I
easy way
watched
out,
it.
bad shot, and don't forget, because Popovich said it himself in like as late as 2015, 2016. He still considered it a gimmick shot
Mhm.
because he's so old. He remember, he still
Remember,
considers
yeah.
it a gimmick before he thought it was an ABA gimmick. It's that's nothing. That's just a marketing ploy 3-point
Yeah.
shot. Like
Remember, we're old enough. We remember when they didn't have 3-point line in college, like they didn't have it in high school. Like so,
yeah,
it was
we
it
we
was
grew
looked
up with outdoor courts that didn't have no 3-point lines on them.
right. So it wasn't. It was like you said. It was a gimmick. You usually shot it. The only time it was good to take it was if it was like coming down at the end of a shot clock or in the end of a buzzer,
Or
and
you
you
were
had to take it.
right, or
Like,
you are so wide open. It's
dude, I will
and,
not say
and
that because I saw a
no,
clip
no,
the
no, no.
other
But no,
day.
let me finish. So wide open, and your coach knew you could make that shot. Because if you were wide open, you couldn't shoot. You better not shoot it. But if you had the ability to knock it down, and you were wide open, then they're like, okay, you can take the shot. But if you weren't shooting no more than one or two of them a game.
Nah,
That wasn't happening.
I saw a clip. I want to say it was Detroit. I think it was Isaiah that shot a three like with like 15 seconds on the shot clock, and the guy was like, "Oh, so we're just terrible shot." And he was wide open, like this is a terrible shot attempt. Like with this much time on the clock, and so it's like, so the whole mentality. It's just like football, where you used to be able you running the football was like the number one thing that you
It was
that
a running. It
you
was a
wanted
running
to
game
do.
then.
Yeah, so it's like you look at it now, you go back to some of those games where the score is low and it's like 50 rushing attempts to 40 something rushing attempts. But that's how the game was played. It was a
Yeah, it was
teamwork
run
game.
first.
It wasn't
Now it's
just,
pass first.
and I think that was one of the beautiful things about it because it wasn't just like we're out here playing. It's like, I'm a man, you're a man. Let's see who's the better man. So we're going to be physical. We're going to be tough. We're going to intimidate you. Like, all of it, like so many of the parts of the game that are missing today. And it's why you can't, like, I always use the Charles Smith example. So
Mm.
you know how you look at, and I'm not talking about Georgetown Charles Smith, I'm talking about Knicks,
Well,
Clippers.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's Charles Smith I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well,
So
yeah.
you
Don't
look
put
at
the
this,
Clippers. The Knicks, not so much.
you look at this dude, another guy.
Oh my
Check
God,
the
what an
boxes.
athlete he was!
Athletic, fundamentally sound. He could shoot with range. He had great footwork. He had all the things. But when you put him on that biggest stage,
Shrink.
scary. Like, I'm like, he ain't try to dunk. The Bulls blocked his shot 73 times on one play. You 6'10. You never even considered dunking. It's like, let me get this up real quick before anybody notices. Like,
And it didn't even go up with two hands. Like
right,
something. Come on, man.
right.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
you
not.
look
And
at,
I'm no Nick fan, but I still hurt for Nick fans on
I
that, man.
was, I was rooting for the Bulls there, but I was still like, bro, this is a bad look. Like, I had your rookie card and I believed in you one time. But I use him as an example. When you say somebody like Paul George, for instance, again, prototypical, everything looks great, right? But it's easier now. You don't have to worry about people trying to break your face. It's easier now when the referees, like, I'm watching these playoff games and they've been good. A lot of them have been
They've
good,
been they've been really good.
but they're playing like with a whole different level of physicality right now.
And I
And the
love it.
referees are letting them.
I love it.
But
It looks like
answer,
basketball.
answer this one question: how many dudes, like superstars, do you see crying and whining
Oh my
every
God.
time they go to the cup and they don't get the foul call?
Freaking
It's
Tibbs was complaining about the disparity in foul calls in game 2. I'm like, first of all, Brunson shot 11 free throws compared to Cade's 12. Yeah, the Pistons shot more, but one thing they weren't doing is they weren't hunting for calls.
right.
The Knicks were hunting for calls, especially Jalen, but they were hunting for calls. If you ain't hunting for calls, you just go out there, you're playing
Just
physical.
don't play. Yeah.
You're going to get the calls because they know you're playing physical, and if they hit you, or if you are a physical player and someone hits you and it impacts you, they know you got hit. Like there's no need to sell it.
Right.
And here's the thing, like, because you mentioned the NFL, and there's been such a big pendulum swing from the 80s and 90s into this modern era, from either run first, heavy defense, and such a big pendulum swing over to pass first, can't touch quarterbacks, you can't touch receivers going across the middle, you can't you can't have your shadow touch LeBron or Steph Curry down the lane because they're going to blow the whistle. And now the pendulum is starting to swing towards the middle some. And I like that because the Eagles won the freaking Super Bowl mostly being a run first team. And we're seeing tough, grinded out basketball. We're seeing that in, well, particularly talking about the Knicks and the Pistons. We're seeing it with the Pistons. I would use the Pistons as an example, and not because of my team, but because they went from 14 wins last year to 40 plus this year, and the sixth seed in their division, their conference, and they're picked by many people to win this first round playoff series. And should they
should be up,
and they should. They should be up 2-0. I think the inexperience got them game 1, but they should be up 2-0. And if we play the way if we play, like, that wasn't even our best game. We play the way we should play at home, I think we'll be all right. But win or lose, they've had the biggest turnaround in the NBA, essentially, percentage wise at least, going from worst to playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like and part of that is because of the style of play. They play Detroit basketball. They grit, they grind, they bang you. They're not afraid of contact. They're not going to be intimidated. They're gonna do what they got to do. They're gully. And other teams you have a couple other teams also who are starting to form their own identity. And that was something that you saw in the 80s. The Celtics played like the Celtics. No one else played like them. No one else was Showtime. Showtime was Showtime. No one else played the way the Nuggets played with Dan Issel and Alex English and Mike Adams. No one else had their unique style of up-tempo offense. No one played the way the Mavs played with Ronaldo and Mark Aguirre and Derek Harper. No one played the way the Pistons played. Their style was unique.
People in prison did, but other than that.
But your better teams, your top teams, it wasn't a copycat league back then.
Remember the Bucks?
The Bucks with Marcus Johnson and Sidney Moncrief and Terry Cummings. Like, no one else played the way they played.
Paul Pressey.
Yeah, it was everyone had their own identity. After the Warriors, everyone's like, oh, wow, we finally had a jump shooting team win the championship. Everybody's going to become everybody. Let's become jump shooting teams. All right, let's shoot 53s a game. Like, no, be your own identity. Forge your own identity. Your team is unique. But now we have some people who are some teams are finally starting to do it. Cleveland finally has their own identity. Detroit regaining the Detroit identity. Miami's been a great job of maintaining their own identity for years, and I love that about the Heat. And even though I hate this whole 10 seed making the freaking playoffs, that's crap. I hate this play-in so much. They don't deserve to be there, period. I don't care that they won 2 games at the end. They don't deserve to be in there. They didn't have a good enough record to be in the top 8. You don't deserve to be there. But Heat culture has been a thing and a consistent thing because they maintain who they are and their culture as a team. Most teams weren't doing that. And I'm glad to see finally some other teams are starting to like, you know what? This ain't gonna work. Us trying to be the Golden State Warriors. It ain't gonna work. It ain't working now. Let's find out what works for us.
The part I hate about it is that you end up like, so now everybody like you see the body types. Everybody's got to be super skinny. You got to be able to get out and guard on the perimeter, unless you're like Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, not to say he doesn't try. I'm just saying, like, if you
He's
look
just
at,
not built that way. Yeah, he's
yeah,
not. Yeah,
body, people's body types, it's a
body
whole
types
bunch
are
of
different. Yeah,
skinny dudes. So they're making these dudes stay like within a certain thing. So some of the stuff that really helped, like Moses Malone, like his size, strength, and he was able to use his body like to, just kind of legally bully you around, But it's like now with Moses be Moses, because they would have him weighing 230. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
I don't know, man. I don't think Moses could have ever been 230. That man was broad.
yeah,
That
it was a
was a
big dude.
broad brother. That was a
But
big
but
man.
you know what I'm saying though. It's like, there's so it's why it's crazy. Going back to that, LeBron saying that, it's why it's all just like crazy, because there's no way like there's no way to know for sure. We can look at Jordan and like I laugh because people are like, there's a whole bunch of athletic guys like Jordan in the league
Yeah.
now.
Oh my God.
And
Every
it's
time they
like
say
I
that,
haven't seen one.
right? And
And
I
I
said,
watch a ton of basketball. I haven't seen one person in the NBA with that kind of athleticism today.
and until 2 or 3 years ago, he still had the highest vert in combine
Yeah,
history until a couple years ago.
yeah.
Like,
Like it's just not like
and
it's
and
just weird to say.
close behind him was Muggsy Bogues at 40 something. You know,
Right.
40
You're
something
talking
inches.
about the speed, the quickness. I saw Vernon Maxwell. Steven Jackson was asking him like, do you have any specific memories, like any memories of going up against Mike? And he's like, I remember like seeing this, he cussing, of course, it's Vernon.
Yeah, oh yeah,
But he's
S
like,
Max. Yeah,
seeing this mug, like feet keep going
yeah.
past his face.
Foot in my face.
He's like, I never seen somebody spin and jump at the same time. It was like, what is this dude even like?
He's like, yeah, what is he on?
It's okay to say that we still haven't had another Wilt Chamberlain.
We
It's okay
haven't.
for me
Not
to say
even
that.
close.
Yeah, it's okay to say that. It's okay to say we haven't had another Muggsy. I don't see another Iverson.
We're not. I mean, dude,
Like,
there's no way we're going to see another Muggsy.
no, because they won't. Yeah, you can't. They're not even
They're
checking
not.
for you.
They're
It's
not. Yeah, they're
like,
not checking for him.
yeah,
But like the unicorn that Muggsy was, 5'3",
out there
unicorn, man.
holding his own. Like, but like
15-year career.
even Allen Iverson, like, so Ja is quick. There's some really quick. There's some
No,
fast dudes.
Allen
But
was
body
insanely quick.
control, feet, like,
And as someone who played, even though it wasn't, I think it was barely played because he wasn't trying. But as someone who faced up Allen Iverson and got crossed over by Allen Iverson at half speed, people don't understand how low of center of gravity he had, which helped on how fast he was. He blew by me so fast. People say, "Oh, man against boy." Like, no, it didn't matter. It wasn't about man against boy.
Because you played against men a lot, right?
I played against men all the time.
Right.
No, so this was not. I mean, I played against college guys. I played against Dante Calabria, was a counselor at Born to Run. I played against Dante Calabria. Dante Calabria couldn't get by me. This man, half speed at the max, quarter speed probably, went right by me like I had cement shoes on. It like, and his center of gravity so strong for somebody so small, such a low center of gravity, just insane quickness. Like, we'll never see somebody that small with that much blazing speed.
Dude, the first time I saw him live, man, like I was like constantly rubbing my eyes. It looked like he was on skates while everybody else was on feet. And not roller skates, but like ice skates, because it wasn't.
Yeah, it looks like he's gliding.
It's not a lot of effort it didn't look like it wasn't no grunt, and it was just ping, 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 like just all over the place, like the sudden, like that, that burst.
Yeah, the burst of
Right.
speed, the stop, stop, go, stop, go. Like the only other person I've seen comparable to that start, stop, is D Rose. D Rose had very
Yeah.
similar start, stop, but not as fast, but similar. That the
And
hurt
he
because
is
he was more hurt because D Rose is more herky jerky than AI's was. AI's was very slide and smooth,
like
but
fluid.
just the be able to go from 0 to 100 like that. D Rose is the closest I've seen, but it was nothing as smooth as Allen, and his center and D Rose's center of gravity is not as low as Allen's, so he didn't. That's probably
But
why it was
then,
so herky jerky because he
right.
wasn't able to be as smooth as Allen was.
But yeah, man. So it's like a couple of things I always tell people: if you find yourself playing against a current NBA player, they're going like 20-25%.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I know I thought I was getting that one time. I don't know if I told the story.
yeah. You told the story.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
thought I was doing good, and then he just started coming down shooting from half court. Like, this is the biggest moment for me as a basketball player, and he just bang, bang, bang. Who's next?
There's levels to this, son.
Can I run with y'all?
All right, one more quick topic here. I saw this post, and again, some people be saying things, and I don't understand it. But this post from Sports Archive said has a list of pictures of white boys in the NBA who always seem ready to throw hands, dive on the floor, mix it up, and bring that gritty, no nonsense energy. So they pictured 12 players. I want a yay or a nay from you on if you agree that these players were ready to throw hands, dive on the floor, mix it up, and bring that gritty, no nonsense energy. Preferably a combination of more than one, but a yay or nay. Okay. First, actually, I'm not going to start here. No, okay, I'm going to start here. I'm going to start at the top. First picture, Larry Joe Bird. Yay or nay?
As always, ready. Like,
Ready to throw hands, dive on the floor, mix it up, bring gritty, no nonsense energy.
okay, and I'm just saying, yay or nay.
Yay or nay? Do they meet that criteria or not?
Hell yay. Yeah, Larry was with it. Like,
Larry, I agree with. Not no, the throw hands part, not really, but I agree
not
with.
necessarily. Yeah,
But the other stuff, yes.
yeah.
Okay. Next person, Danny Ainge.
So I mean, if we're taking because he was even nutting up in Phoenix and Portland. I'm gonna say yeah. I'm not gonna say he was gonna win fights, but he definitely was an agitator and instigator, and I didn't see him really running from anything.
Well, I watched him run a lot.
Was he running, or was he just getting in position to better defend himself?
No. There was a time I remember watching. It was I think it was the '89 season when we're playing the Celtics, and they announced that Danny Ainge in the starting lineup, and the pal starts just booing him. He doesn't come off the bench. Why? Because he's already in the huddle, hiding. He was known as a crybaby. They used to
but
blast him in the papers as a crybaby. That man was not ready to mix him up. And when he did do something like throw the ball and hit, I think he nailed Hakeem with the ball. He wouldn't act like it was accidental.
that was Mario Ellie, I think.
Oh yeah, it was somebody in the Rockets. He chucked and nailed the ball with him. Okay, accident. This is Danny Ainge, who was an outfielder for the Toronto Blue Jays.
And
That
a
man
quarterback.
and a quarterback. That man didn't accidentally hit you with the ball.
No.
That man purposely hit you with the ball and then wanted to act like, oops, I did that by accident, and stood right between that ref and every other Rocket trying to get at him. That man was not down for it.
But I mean, think about so when I think about that question, he clearly knew what he was doing. He was like trying to get people, pissed off, get them out of their games. Sometimes get them kicked out. Remember him,
but he
trying to
wouldn't.
press. Remember he tried to press Jordan in the finals with Phoenix.
That lasted for a whole 30 seconds.
I know, but I'm just saying
he tried to get people fired up, but it didn't work. But he wasn't trying to mix it up. He wasn't trying to throw no hands, and he wasn't really gritty.
He was always starting stuff, though.
Yeah, but that's nonsense. And he wasn't bringing no nonsense energy. He was bringing nonsense. He was full of nonsense.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I always looked at him like a little punk.
He is a punk. That's why people couldn't stand him.
At the same time, I guess, like, looking at these guys today, you got to say he was kind of a gangster.
Well, okay, compared to some of these, yeah, but I'm talking for the era.
But no, okay,
I'm talking for his time. Okay,
I just know he was always in some shit.
Yeah, because he was always starting something.
Terrible.
He had to do something to stand out, being the only non-All-Star on that Celtics team.
Yeah, he was a solid player, though.
He was. No, I don't knock Ainge at all. He was a solid player. And he got that one-time All-Star nod later on. Okay, next person on this graphic is John Stockton.
Nah.
You say yay to Ainge, but no to Stockton?
Stockton ain't never really get into stuff. Like
Stockton ain't about to throw hands. Dive on the floor, mix it up, gritty, no nonsense. That's Stockton all the way.
He was setting. So are we talking about fighting, or are we talking about just?
It's a combination.
Being a tough player.
We know he's not going to fight, so we can take that one out.
I'm saying when Isaiah Lord Thomas would come in there and drop 40-something on him, he would just look like he wanted to cry. Like the only gritty thing I think I can count him for was setting dirty, illegal
dirty screens. Yeah.
But I mean, I seen Mark Price eat him up. Like,
oh yeah, no.
To me, I
okay. No,
he's a tough player.
I can accept that. He's
a player.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like a little bit of grit and grind.
See, I see like two of those four for him compared to like none for Ainge. But okay, you give him that. I can respect that.
Fights though, like
no, he wasn't fighting nobody. He wasn't gonna fight.
But he was getting in fights.
Okay.
Difference.
There's a difference. Okay, next person on this graphic is Steve Blake.
Come on, man. We know Steve was with the hands. We know Steve.
Steve quick with the hands.
He was stay ready all-star. Like,
Steve ready to knock somebody out. How has Steve Blake not done this? So the celebrity boxing or the post-athlete boxing? Because Steve loved to throw hands, man.
Yeah. I like that was easy for me. He was tough. He wasn't like trying to be cute out there.
Yo, not for the nonsense, gritty. That is Steve Blake to a T.
Yeah,
All right, next player, Kevin McHale.
Nah. Like the only reason that he clotheslined Kurt Rambis is because Larry Bird called him out. Have you heard that story? Like
I've heard that story.
Like, wait, what just happened?
No, I've heard that story.
The nicest guy on the team, the guy that shook hands with the Pistons after they beat them that year in '87. Was it
the only one that stayed behind the shake?
Yeah, just a really nice guy. He wasn't like his look would make you think that he was,
right. And that one clip of him taking out Rambis, which he took out Rambis, the player that people cared the least about,
right? And the person that probably is least likely to
knock him out,
bring you up, yeah,
right.
So he was very tactical. I would say no.
Okay,
great player though.
Great player. Oh my god,
phenomenal
player. Next on the list it's a gimme. And we mentioned him earlier, Bill Laimbeer.
Well, what? Why he should be the statue? Like
he should be the statue.
For the trophy. Like that shouldn't even be a question.
And
he used to like Bill. So like he got a couple of shots in when him and Barkley got into it, Like Bill, who else? Oh, Brad Daugherty.
Brad Daugherty caught
Oh,
that whole fist from him.
can we get a moment of silence for Brad? Like, for Brad Daugherty's
For
aura?
this moment of silence is for Brad Daugherty's chin, circa 1990.
Jeez. Dude, he cleaned that man out. I was like, no, Brad, no. Not on television.
Well, see, how Brad Williams came to the Cavs, and all of a sudden Brad thought he was tough.
Yeah.
You ain't tough, bruh.
That's a very underrated basketball
I
player.
love Hot Rod Williams, man. Great player. Next on this graphic is someone we just mentioned, Kurt Rambis.
Nah.
Yes, Kurt Rambis wasn't about that life, man.
Yeah. I mean, he showed, toughness and all of that, but
yeah, but being the enforcer for Showtime does not mean that you're that tough or gritty.
I never looked
and he
at
wasn't
him
mixing it up. Yeah, he wasn't that dude.
I never even looked at him like an enforcer. He was just a hustle. He was scrappy. But if something was going to happen, like, first of all, nobody was really trying to mess with Cap because Cap been known to, clean a couple of clocks.
Oh, well, we saw what he did to Ken Benson.
Yeah. So it's like AC Green wasn't an enforcer either. Did we have?
He was a night. I mean, he was kind of your enforcer. He wasn't.
He played hard.
He played hard. He kind of filled that role, but he wasn't an enforcer.
Yeah, like you. I mean, we didn't really have like.
We had a team full of them. So
yeah, you had two non-enforcers on your team. Everybody else. Like,
it was a requisite to be on the team. Can you clean somebody's clock? Cool, you play with us.
Freaking sweat hogs. Like,
hey, blame Daly. You blame Daly and blame McCloskey because there's a great book I read on the Pistons called The Franchise by what's his name? I forget the author's name. It'll come to me, but it's a good book, and it really talked about how McCloskey and Daly came up with how they wanted to play because they were both a couple boys from coal mining towns in Pennsylvania. And as unathletic white dudes, to win, you had to play what they called coal miner style. And it was rough. You diving for loose balls, you're banging. You got to do what you got to do to win against better athletes. And when you have superior athletes playing that style, who's going to beat them?
Right. So my thing is, I thought they just saw what the Celtics did to us in '84 and decided, hey, we just need to start beating people up. Because the Celtics, we was about to run them out the gym, and then Larry Bird goes in there and like, I'm just gonna take this. Nobody's gonna try to murder anybody, and they turned it into a gang fight.
Yeah, y'all wasn't ready for that, man.
No, we was out there trying to be cute. About to run these boys out. You know what they was thinking, man? We got to run these boys.
Hey, look, the Celtics felt they had to get some type of toughness after Doc gave Bird that 3-piece. So,
okay, who's next?
Next is Jerry Sloan.
From everything I've seen, I wasn't, there, but I heard that he was tough as nails on the court, and we saw him as a coach. So I would.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many highlights of Jerry Sloan, but all I've heard, the gritty, no nonsense, absolutely. That's Jerry Sloan to a T.
Yeah.
All right, the next picture on this graphic, Tyler Hansborough.
No. He was just,
no Psycho T for
you,
just,
that's not like.
No, there's no need to explain. He ain't that. He ain't. Hard worker, yes. Gritty, dive on the floor, throw hands. Nah, that's not Psycho T. That's not.
He'll dive on the floor, but
that's about it.
Also, get knocked on the floor. He was just
more knocked than diving.
Like literally, he's like the Tim Tebow basketball. I have no skills. I just have guts.
Well, you know what? When coming out, people thought he was going to be like the next Bill Laimbeer, but more athletic. But I was like, he's a little small.
Yeah.
But all right, next on this list, Brian Scalabrine. Yeah, I know. No more needs to be said. Next,
trying to conjure anything that would make me.
I'm sorry. What about Brian Scalabrine standing in the corner waiting to shoot a three? Says no nonsense, grit, mix it up, throw hands, dive on the floor. Nothing.
Nothing.
And no knock to Brian Scalabrine because I like him. But yeah. Next, so we got two left. The next one is Chris Anderson, Birdman.
He was just crazy. Like he just acted crazy on the court.
He just looks tough. He looks like a biker.
Yeah, but remember before he adopted that persona, he was just out there.
Yeah, he was just a white dude with big hair.
Athletic, skinny dude. So yeah, no, I don't. There was nothing.
Yeah, he don't fit this team either.
No.
All right, the last picture on this list. You want to give her a guess who's on this list? That's the last picture before I say it.
It better not be JJ Redick.
That would be funny. That would be funny. Last picture on this list. Matthew Dellavedova.
Just a tough guy. Tough, but not like a tough guy. But he just plays hard.
Played hard. I'll give him a gritty player. I'll give him. See, things like me, he's maybe gritty. He was a gritty player. No nonsense energy. I would give him. But other than that, I don't see it. I give him 2 out of the 5.
I didn't even think he played like at a decent level long enough to be considered like
the Cleveland years and a little bit with the Bucks.
Yeah, that series got him paid.
Sure did.
But then people realized that they shouldn't have paid him.
Now, so my response to seeing this was, of course, Danny Ainge, Scalabrine, Tyler Delly, like what? Okay, so my thing was, where's Dave Cowens?
Right.
How do you make a list of tough white dudes and you leave off probably the toughest one in Dave Cowens?
Right, but also like you think of like. Not saying Bobby Jones was like a gangster.
Bobby Jones was gonna be another one on mine too.
Yeah, but that was a tough man right there. Like that dude was. I really like Bobby Jones. But.
Same. How is Joe Klein now on this list? Joe Klein was ready to mix it up, ready to give it to you. I remember. I forget who had the story. It might have been. I think it was Matt Barnes and Stack were talking to somebody. I think Matt was talking about.
It was Rashid.
She was somebody. Yeah, she was talking about Joe Klein, and Stack was like, "Yeah, man, Joe Klein took me out one time, man.
Okay, young fella, don't come back.
Don't come back in here with that." Joe Klein was I dude to mess with. Like you. How do you make a list without freaking Dave Cowens, man?
Man, it's part of it, man. Like they just trying to erase everything that happened. Cause I could think of other ones, man. Like Mark Eaton. Like
I had Mark Eaton on my list too. I have Dave Cowens, Mark Eaton, Joe Klein, Bobby Jones, Jack Sikma.
Yeah, Jack Sikma. Like, just don't even look like he's the kind of person you should mess with.
He looked like an 80s model, but he was not someone to mess with.
Tough player.
Like
I saw the thing. They were talking about Tom Chambers, and there was a guy that was saying there's no way that he shouldn't be.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. I've been calling for years. The man scored 20,000 points.
I'm trying to figure out what could have happened. So I have my reasons why I think Kevin Johnson is not in. He absolutely should be there as a player, but I'm pretty sure I know what happened that's keeping him in a bad place.
Oh, the allegations?
Yeah,
that was bad.
But Tom Chambers
somehow he made mayor after that though, so
yeah, not in Arizona.
But not in Arizona.
But yeah, But
And,
yeah, I
hey,
don't understand Tom Chambers. It seems like he should be there.
well, see, I did a video years ago, because I think it was the 2017 finals,
Hmm.
um, because all these sportscasters, particularly Shannon and Nick Wright and Colin Cowherd, were at that time, saying, well, obviously the Cavs aren't going to win because they're playing against four Hall of Famers, and no one else
Mm.
has ever had to play four Hall of Famers. So I compared that Warriors team to the '93 Phoenix Suns, and I said, well, if you're calling, and I compared the accolades, particularly of where Draymond and Clay were at that point, because the
Mm.
resumes of Steph and KD at the time would have had them in the Hall of Fame. But between Clay and Dre, you only had a couple All Stars and one um, other accolade on their resume. So I compared them. I said, okay, you got Charles Barkley, easy, MVP, Hall of Fame lock. And then you got Kevin Johnson, multiple time All Star, 20 points a game, so many assists a game. And I said, you've got Dan Marley, multiple time All Star, all NBA defense. And then there's another accolade in there. And then you've got Tom Chambers, multiple time All Star, third
We
in
don't,
MVP voting, and so all on the same squad.
and then we don't know what Richard Dumas could have been.
Yeah, Richard Dumas. Yeah. So so if those guys, as right now at that time, are four Hall of Fame players, then that Phoenix Sun team was four Hall of Fame players. So that's going to wrap up this episode. Very unfocused episode. I promise the next episode will be more focused, as our topic will be myself and G. We are going to define, we're going to establish tiers, starting with the definition of what is an average player. And so when we have these future topics and these future discussions, you understand the tiers that we establish moving forward. Yeah. That's where the bar is set. So look forward to that next episode. This was just fun because we haven't been able to link up for a minute. We just got, sometimes we ain't been able to link up for a little bit. You just got to shoot the breeze. So,
yeah.
We shot the breeze. It was good. Next episode, more focused, trimmed down the time to keep it more easy listening. And if you can't find Fanalysis 101 on your podcasting apps, you should, because we're on Google. Oh, no, sorry. Google doesn't have an app anymore. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple, Spotify, Castbox, all the major ones. But if we're not on your favorite one, let us know. Email us at jeeknation@gmail.com or message Jeek Nation on Facebook, IG, Twitter, TikTok, whatever social media app you use the most. Let us know, and we'll make sure that we can be found on your platform, not just Fanalysis 101, but all of our shows. Until next episode, I'm your host, the one and only Magic. He is Greg Burnham, and we are out. Peace.